Hello again, heretics. Screen Rant says Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 needs to make LGBTQ relationships canon. Well, whose relationships? By who? Who wrote these? Have you never been on the internet? In less than 5 minutes of internet searching, you can find every character banging every other character. The game would be a massive orgy. Okay, I digress. Possibly they mean one or two characters. Fine, whatever. However, here's what I find interesting. Along with humanity itself, the art of storytelling has passed along and evolved with us. From oral to script, to plays, and eventually movies. And then finally, video games. Final Fantasy VII is one of the most epic stories told within my generation. And what does Screen Rant take away from that story? Well, who's fucking? To hell with the ambiguity of who's the bad guys, who's the good guys. Is eco-terrorism, can it be right if it's saving the planet? Is it okay for a guy to just look for a payday, or must he strive to be more? Let us not worry about these moral dilemmas. No, we need to worry about who's sticking their dick in who. Now, this might be where some soy-infused white knight tells me, well, you want to sleep with Tifa, so nyeh. Well, of course I do. She's got big fat anime titties. She's also very tough and has agency, which makes her basically the hottest woman in video games. However, I am not demanding that Squaresoft or Square Enix put me in the game to bang the girl. I truly don't care. I just want to play through an interesting story. The article says, Final Fantasy VII Remake integrated a much more involved love triangle between Cloud, Aerith, and Tifa. This unneeded addition continues a trend of lacking romantic diversity in the Final Fantasy series as a whole. I'm going to make a confession. I have not played Final Fantasy VII Remake. I haven't played Final Fantasy VII in 20 years. But I know that love triangle is much deeper than what's being given credit here. Cloud inherited the memories of Zack. Zack was Aerith's boyfriend. This was not as simple as a teenage boy holding his dick screaming, "Oh, I can only choose one, but both are so hot." His mind was seriously fucked up. And while I'm reading this because I find it hilarious, I can't believe somebody can cheapen that point in the story so much. The article continues. Interactions between characters weren't expressed as explicitly romantic, and this ambiguity allowed fans of Final Fantasy VII to either slip more mainstream couples like Cloud and Tifa, or they could look into relationships that were more relatable to their own personal lives, like Vincent and Cid. Yes, I remember whenever I came upon Cid, and he met the character whom may not be part of my party, depending on if I did the special stuff to get him in there. Yes, you could cut the sexual tension with a knife. Vincent, the edgy boy, was like, "Well, Cid, it looks like your spear is very hard." Then Cid takes a puff of his cigarette and says, "Well, yeah, and so is my dick." However, do not get me wrong. If those writing the story of Final Fantasy VII decide that they feel it would be best for the story for a character to be gay or lesbian or LGBTQ or what have you, I would be completely fine with that as long as it makes sense within the story and the storytellers wanted to tell this story. I'm not a fan of seeing romance in general put into a story if it serves no purpose. Honestly, whenever I play a Final Fantasy game, I just want to be told a good story, and I'm fine with that. As long as everything works in the story, I'm okay with it. Let's go. The article says, if the Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to take away a player's ability to draw their own conclusions about romantic interactions, it would only seem right to finally add LGBTQA+ representation into the games. I'm going to introduce an incredible idea in everybody's heads. People can meet without wanting to fuck each other. Yes, two men like Vincent and Cid can meet, become really great friends, but have no romantic interest in each other. Now, maybe I'm crazy, but as I played the game of Final Fantasy VII, I came to the conclusion that the other characters just simply did not pursue romantic interest in each other. Not everyone who meets is meant for each other. Human beings are not land-dwelling seahorses who meet and immediately start trying to penetrate each other. Sometimes we have to accept that people don't end up together, and it's fine. Here the author says, in games like Dragon's Age, the inclusion of LGBTQA+ characters has not only made the game more diverse, but extends content to a wider audience, allowing more fans to enjoy the game on a personal level. Games like Dragon's Age or Mass Effect was really the player getting to create their own story. You very much got to enjoy and do whatever you wanted to. You could pursue gay or LGBTQA+ relationships all you wanted to. It was your story. That was the pull of those games. You could do whatever you wanted to, and I get why people liked it. That's incredible. I'm a little sad that I never really sat down with a Mass Effect game. However, Final Fantasy is a different experience. Final Fantasy is a game in which you are being told a story, you are participating in it. Usually, you beat a part of the game and you are rewarded with more story. Granted, sometimes you could influence the story by decisions you make. Like if Titus was very nice to Riku or Lulu, he would get to ride with one of them on the snowmobile instead of Yuna. However, at the end of the story, we know it's Titus and Yuna. And yes, I'm saying Titus. I'm not calling the guy Titus. Alright, that's not happening. Titus sounds like plural for multiple sets of titties. Now, heretics, as much as I've made fun of this article, I'm going to give the author the last word. This lack of diversity hurts Final Fantasy VII Remake, taking large steps backwards from the original that left doors open for players to make their own choices and draw their own conclusions about content. Taking away this autonomy for an outdated romantic agenda does nothing for Final Fantasy VII Remake, and is frustrating for those who no longer can feel connected to the story's characters. So, heretics, what do you think? Does the author have a point? I'm going to share a story with you. Yes, I have watched Brokeback Mountain. I really liked that movie. At the end, when Heath Ledger is sniffing the shirt of his boyfriend, and he breaks down crying, that honestly tore my heart out. Sorry, spoilers. I guess my point is that you don't have to be exactly like a character to empathize with them. When you have a heart, you can feel for characters that you are nothing like. At least for me, that's the magic of Final Fantasy. I've felt for every character I ever played. But then again, that's just me. Who knows what other people feel? As always, heretics, thank you very much for listening, and keep playing.